so I believe that there is actually, sadly, very evil, corrupt, power hungry, money hungry pieces of shit that control things behind the scenes. And I've had this pretty much confirmed to me by sitting members of parliament who I won't release their names, but privately, who I've met or had on my pod or are in my circles through people, some of them leaving Australia. Adrian,
Ah, man.
how
What's
you
going
doing,
on, Adam?
brother? I'm
Yeah, doing
good. I'm
well.
good. What's
Doing amazing.
happening?
You? Amazingly tired, amazingly sore. I'm doing
Why
good.
is that? What's going on?
Oh, man. Oh, I don't know. The last probably uh several months now, I would say, like I've been really sort of hitting it hard on all fronts. But just in the last couple of weeks, I've just had like just soreness, from work, injuries in the gym, at MMA, like all that kind of stuff. I'm just like I'm starting to wear out, mate. I don't know what's going on, but I might need a bit of a break. Just
Sounds suspiciously like you're getting old, brother.
yeah, nah, I don't buy into that rubbish.
I love it. Good for
Uh,
you.
you're looking
Great.
well?
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm good. I'm here in Bali again now, so it's all good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
What's life like in Bali?
I love it. Yeah, it's I've been in Thailand for the last a week and a half and I just got back and yeah, I just every time I come home to Bali, I just feel at peace. It's just such a great place to live. I just absolutely love it.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you coming back on the show, man. I know you're like you say in the podcast that I listen to, like you've got a fairly you don't say easy life, but you say like, I live life on my own terms. I got like I can do whatever I
Mm.
want,
Hmm.
right? And so I sort of believe that, but I also sort of don't. I think at the end of the day, the way that I would imagine that your mind would work would be like busy enough, like compared to say the average person who gets up in the morning, does the 9 to 5, and then comes home. I think that your plate would be much fuller than that. But I guess in an overarching way, I'm also appreciative of your time because you can say yes or no, to just about anything. So I appreciate that. I value your time. I think it's a wonderful thing that you do.
Appreciate it. No problem. Yeah, no problem.
Am I right or am I off the mark with your?
Um, no, I mean, I actually, my days and my life now are very uncluttered. Like I really am not nearly as busy as people imagine I'm busy, at least not with business stuff. Um, so I just, yeah, I have a lot of time where I'm just enjoying life, going to the gym twice a day, maybe once for workout, second time just to lie by the pool and use the sauna. Um, have a long lunch. If there's a meeting in my calendar that I don't want to do, I just will quite often say, look, I don't want to do this today. Let's just move it. I'm really not that busy. Um, and I love to keep my calendar empty. So yeah, I
Really?
enjoy that. Yeah,
For real. So do you
for
ever
real.
find yourself like wanting to be busy? Do you ever find yourself maybe I don't know if getting distracted would be the way, but maybe finding things to sort of sink your teeth into, whether it be, ideas or something to sort of flesh out business wise just for yourself or anything like that?
Not really. I find myself not wanting to be busy. Like as soon as something feels like it's going to require more meetings and getting people together, I'm like, I lose interest. The opposite of what I used to be. I went through that stage of withdrawal symptoms for maybe 2 years,
Yeah.
where I felt like, oh God, I've got to do something. I've got to. Now I'm like almost allergic to work. It's like I honestly don't enjoy it. Um, I love nothing more than having space in my calendar. I've got one project that's, I would say business, but it's a passion project that I'm just very slowly with my best mate who I'm thinking of doing it with, having a conversation that's organic. We're not setting, appointments and making time to discuss it. We're just sort of organically still just, and it's been going for months. Just what if we did this? What if we did that? But there's no real like focus on achieving a financial outcome or anything. It's just like an organic discussion about like what it could be, and then that's
Yeah.
it. At the moment, it's just like a plaything. So yeah, no, I've just reached a time where I'm just not. I'm seeking to create space in my life, and I hate the thought of regular meetings. I hate the thought of working towards a goal or a project at the moment. I'm just not there.
Yeah, right. So the Adam that we're seeing now is a work in progress over the last 2 to 3 years, would you say, or 3 to 5 years, where you kind of like exited out of certain business deals or ventures or whatever, and then kind of decluttered and minimized, your life to a degree.
Mhm. Um, yeah, look, I mean, I got to a point, mate, where I was, I think that moment where I turned 50 and I just was like, I asked myself that question, like, I have enough money and do I want to keep doing this for another year? Like having business meetings and setting goals and holding, people accountable to their obligations in a business framework and doing all the stuff that's required to be a businessman. And I
Mhm.
went, or a landlord, all these things that I'd done for 30 years. And I looked at all of it and I went, no, I don't want to spend. Well, actually, I started with the question, do I want to do this for another 5 years? Do I want to be chasing and maybe try to add a few more $1 million to my net worth? I went, it's not going to make any difference to me, right?
Mm.
Like it'll make zero difference to me. If you give me another $5 million, it's not going to make any difference to my life, right? Um, Okay, so do I want to do this for another year? And the answer was no. And then I went, do I want to do this for another 5 minutes? And the answer was no. I don't want to do any of what I was doing for another 5 minutes. I was done with business. I was done with having business meetings and doing tax returns and seeing appointments with my accountant where I had to talk about, loans and intercompany loans and trust structures and what I could deduct or all the bullshit that we have to do when we're in business.
Yeah.
I just went, if I never have any of these meetings again, if I never have to have a difficult conversation with a human being about underperformance or missing a goal or, setting an expectation, knowing that they're probably not going to read it or, like just
Mhm.
all the stuff of everything associated with creating wealth and achieving more in the physical plane just became pure suffering and boredom to me. Um, and I was like, there's got to be more to life than those questions in that game. And so it took me 2 years to divest of all my assets and having, assets, and having conversations with partners to say, look, I want to create space in my calendar and in my mind because they're kind of universally the same thing.
Mm.
Um, I want to empty my physical calendar, which a byproduct of that is it empties the mind. And then I want to see what's left, like after that. Like if you strip away, oh, Adam has an audience or a podcast or was an Amazon guy, all the labels that I'd earned and
Mm.
attached to myself over this time. If all of that went away, who am I? Like, what am I doing? What do I want to do in my life? And so people always say what you said. They always go, "Oh, man, I know that you're so busy." And I'm inside and secretly, I'm like, "I'm not busy. I'm not busy at all." Um,
Good.
it's just people in the West can't imagine ever truly not being busy ever,
Yeah,
because
that's right.
we're just become so conditioned that you must be busy in order to not these days just to keep up, but if you want to excel and you want to advance and you want to become an outlier worth 10 million or $20 million, you
Mm.
can't not be busy. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Right.
there's not optional, right? It's barely optional to even just not go backwards.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
look,
so I basically restructured everything around that, and now I'm actually not busy. And like this morning, I had this appointment with a guy. And it was 10:30 and it was right in the middle of when I wanted to go to the gym with my best mate because we're in a routine
yeah.
and we're on a program. And I said, I'm just going to push it. Fuck it. I don't know the guy. Like, he's reached out and he gave me a big background. And it's not that I disrespect the guy. It's not that I don't like the guy. I said, look, we need to do this another day. Something's come up. And he
Wow.
was like, yeah, no problem. And I just pushed it to another day. And I then went into my calendar settings and realized that I still had that time block. And I've just said now, people want meetings between 3 and 5 p.m. in the afternoon, 3 days a week. And that's it. There's nothing else open in my calendar for people
Beautiful.
except for
Yeah.
a podcast here or there, maybe if it's
Yeah.
somebody that I like.
Do you think that if you were to take a snapshot of the life that you've created now and curated in the last 2 years, what would you say to Adam like 20 years ago? Would you still think now that you could have created a similar level of success with the framework and structure that you have now? Do you think this is like, we've come through this probably the last, I don't know, 20 years, and you've been on stage with most of these people, this hustle and grind culture, just work your face off and sleep when it's necessary sort of thing is kind of like what we've grown up with. So I guess I'm curious to know, do you think now you could build a degree of whatever someone defines as monetary success or whatever it may be within the structure that you have created for yourself now? Or do you think that it would still require heaps of hustle and grind and just, working hard?
Look, to have the exact outcome that I have and situation that I have, which is money. So you could do most of what I'm doing now without money. That's just the fact, and lots of people do. Um, but if you wanted to do all the things that I'm doing now with, what most people consider a fairly healthy financial cushion, I don't
Mm,
think you can achieve that level of financial cushion do it living how I am now, canceling meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning because I'd rather go to the gym with my mate. You're not going to be able to get there. So I think if you want the financial cushion, and it's just a choice, I think it's a different question of could you achieve that level of happiness? Like the real question here is, am I happier now? And the answer is overwhelmingly yes. I'm way happier now with space in my calendar. Um, but and you can do that with a lot less money. But a lot of us in the West feel like we need to tick off certain boxes. Like it's easy for me to say, hey, a Ferrari is not going to bring you joy because I've had
mm,
a Ferrari, right? Right. I've had the Porsche, Targa Forest. I've had the multi-million dollar homes. I've had all that stuff. I don't have any of it anymore. I've got a scooter. And so it's each to their own. I mean, I'll tell you a story actually, Adrian, that you might appreciate. So I was just in Thailand for 10 days. I went to Bangkok for 3 days. Then I went to Koh Samui because I hired a biohacking coach.
mm,
And he lives in Koh Samui. He's a British guy. And then we went over to Koh Phangan. His girlfriend lives in Koh Phangan. And Thailand is one of the great free countries in the world. Like you could pretty much do anything in Thailand as long as you don't hurt people, right? Like if you're not a dickhead, you can do whatever you want. You want to ride around on your motorbike with your hat off, that's fine. Like you might have to pay someone a fine if you get pulled over. But if it's your head, right? If you want to kill
yeah.
yourself, good luck, right? You can pull over by the side of the road. You can buy yourself a joint, no problem. It's free. It's a free country, and I absolutely love that there are still places in the world that are free. And we had this one particular day where I met with my coach. My best friend Jason's traveling with me at the moment. He walked out of the Western world late last year as well. We now live together as best mates. And we met my biohacking coach and his girlfriend on Koh Phangan, and they're just completely alternative people. And she got on the back of his motorbike, said, "Look, we'll take you for a ride." And it was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning. And she's on the back of the bike, and neither of them got a helmet on. And she's just got her arms in the breeze, and we're going through the middle of Koh Phangan, which is like Jurassic Park.
Mhm.
And she's just totally in flow with everything going on around her. And then she'd lean forward and cuddle her boyfriend, and kiss him on the neck. And they were just chilling. And I was looking at this going, that right there is freedom. That is a level of joy. And then we stopped. We went to the gym together. We went and had a sauna and a cold plunge. And I was just like, man, this is a level of freedom. And then later that afternoon, we went to a spa and we went into a steam room and just completely, it was one of these steam rooms that was sort of like, uh, the acoustics were just amazing. It was just, anyway, he said, look, I'm going to teach you this chakra chanting. And we're
Mm,
sitting there in the steam room, me, my best mate, and these two, and this young girl from Germany came in, and then he just started teaching us this this chanting thing. And then we're all sort of rhythmically doing this chant. And then this German girl just started singing. And it was just angelic inside of this environment.
Yeah.
And it was transformative. And I got quite emotional. I actually lost my shit. I started crying out of nowhere. And then
Wow.
I walked outside and it just pummeled down rain in the middle of Copenhagen. And we're
Mhm.
surrounded by these palm trees. And then we got into this hot tub and we're just all in silence, just standing there in this hot tub in the rain, just looking at each other. And we just had this moment of like, oh my God, like what a special moment here on planet Earth.
Mhm.
And you could live 30 years chasing money in Australia and not have an authentic random connection with
Mhm.
other human beings like what I experienced in that moment. And it was kind of like this moment where I realized these really tough decisions of saying, I no longer want to play the money game. I no longer want to optimize and maximize and send off my taxes and do all this shit. I
Mm.
want to actually feel alive again. And at the end, we all just looked at each other, and then the rain stopped, and we're like, "Holy shit, what a moment!" And then we just went on with the rest of our day. And so I'm having sort of like these sort of very unique experiences at the moment because my primary mission is to be here now in this moment in my life
Mhm.
because I have no idea how long. My mother died when she was 58 from a brain tumor, and I'm 52.
Mm.
So I didn't want to spend any more time living in the future or thinking about the past, which I'd done for 30 years as a businessman. I'm constantly thinking about the future, constantly worrying about what could go wrong, might go wrong, blah, 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 most of which never did. And
Yes.
I was missing my whole life. And
Mhm.
so anyway, so I really try to stay now free. And today I've had a beautiful day today. Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome.
Yeah. That's an amazing story. When do you think that your values started to shift towards from money or success or fame or fortune or whatever it may be to peace, happiness, love, connection? Like, when do you think that that started to really have I guess, a visceral kind of feeling or an effect on you?
Well, I could give you a numerical answer, which is
Yeah.
an amount of money, right? Or I could give you a spiritual answer, which is the way I was feeling. And the truth is
Yeah.
probably both coinciding at the same time. So on a numerical side, I got to a point in my life where um, I looked at the time ahead and I looked at the numbers in my life from a financial point of view and figured out, look, this is what I want to spend each year to live. And I don't live that crazy. I probably spend less money than many Australian families that have got a couple of kids in private school. I probably spend about what they spend or maybe a bit less. I don't live an extravagant life. You know, the house I'm building here in Bali is less expensive than probably a lot of your listeners. I think the average Aussie house is $1 million. My place in Bali that I'm building is going to be $1.2 million. So I have the same house as an average Australian in terms of price, right? Um, so so I looked at my life and I went, okay, I've got X amount of dollars after all this time. Um, if I doubled that, what difference would it make to me? And the answer is I don't like boats, right? I don't have a cocaine problem and I don't spend money on women. So if I'm not into coke and I'm not into boats and private jets and I don't have a problem with women, like you know what I mean by that.
Yes. I
So
do.
if I don't have those drains on my life, um, what do I need money for? Like, why do I want to spend another time being stressed? It'd be different if you woke up every day and you absolutely loved it. I just didn't absolutely love it anymore, the game, right?
Mm.
And so I got to a point where I was like, I can invest this money. I need, let's say, a couple of $1 million to set my life up for the stuff I need to live and a couple of things. And then I've got this huge pile over and above what I need to actually have a home and maybe a car and different things. And if that cash pile just appreciates at the most conservative CAGRs you can imagine, I'm
Mhm.
never going to go broke as long as I'm not a fucking idiot with the money, right?
Um,
So if I'm never going to go broke, what do I want to do? Give up the rest of my conscious life chasing dollars and filling out tax forms and working out structures and how to stay away from the ATO? Like, no, like there's got to be much more juice and joy and things in life than that. So when I realized that, I was like, well, I've got enough money. Okay, so well, is there any other reason I would play that game? And when I looked at, and these days, when I look at the game and I look at the players in the game and the way the system is, I'm like, I don't want to play a game that's rigged against me anymore. I
Oh.
just don't want to play that game. And I'm
Mhm.
seeing more and more people at all different points starting to realize I don't want to play that game either because I can now see it. I've been to the circus, I've seen the strings, I know how this works. I
Yeah.
was very lucky to come out with any surplus. Most people don't. Most of my friends, men get to age 50 and work their nuts off and take all kinds of risks. And
Mm.
many of them, a majority of them, don't end up financially independent because of a divorce or because of a few things that went against them, and they're fucked at 50. And and physically, mentally, emotionally drained. The world is just taken from them.
Mm.
So I don't want to go back into that game where the odds of winning are very, very low for the average person. And so I wanted to reassess which game I started to play. And I realized that when you start, especially for Australians, there are other ways to play the game that give you a much better chance at the outcome that you really want, which is peace of mind and freedom. And as I'm right around, I live in Bali, as you know, and I ride around in Bali or I ride around in Thailand, and I get myself, like yesterday, I put on my Insta story at the end of the street where I'm staying here at the moment while my house being built. I got a chicken and vegetables and rice, and it was $4.20, right?
Mm.
Because the Indonesian dollar is so weak at the moment against the Aussie. I'm sitting there having this bowl with my best mate. We're both sitting there having a $4.20 lunch,
Yeah.
and and we got all our laundry, which was two big bags because we've been in Thailand, washed, ironed at the expensive place, which is the eco place where they don't use all the harsh chemicals and they'll sun dry your shirts instead of throwing them in the dryer and ruining them. So we get the
Mm.
exclusive, and they'll iron everything, including our undies. It was like $12 for like two massive
Wow.
bags, and that was double what you'd normally pay.
Yeah.
And when you strip that away, and we spend, we go to the gym every day and we eat amazing food and we tip like we're billionaires because we appreciate
Yeah.
the Balinese. They love us everywhere we go because we're so generous and kind and so deeply appreciative of them allowing us to be here. So I don't know, man. I'm now living in a way where people
Yeah.
routinely are saying, brother, I don't even recognize you. You sound different. You look like
Mm.
you're 10 years younger. And I feel the best I've ever felt in my life.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah. So look, I mean, but a large part of your answer is quite analytical and logical and practical. But
Mhm.
I still sense that, there's a large part of you, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to bring it up, but it does seem like a a difference in just your aura and persona, like you've shed, baggage,
Mhm.
and done away with, I don't know, like you said before, like the identity part of it, especially for you, probably is a huge thing. I know, like if you've got any kind of business reputation or a following on social media, then there is a part of you that's a sexy sort of trap that you fall into, which is trying to maintain the impression that you think other people want to see. And so
Mhm.
even if you think you're authentic and you don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks, you still are lured into the game of like someone's watching some of the time. So I can't fuck up. And I guess in one way it's a good thing, but in another way it's bad. But that's what I sense from you. I sense more of a spiritual shift and a realization that, like Stephen Covey says, I climbed the ladder of success only to realize that it's leaning against the wrong wall.
Yeah, I would probably describe what happened to me as an ego death. And somebody commented that actually under one of my posts saying, what happened to Adam? Under one of my videos, like an interview like this, somebody said, what has Adam's gone through as an ego death? And it's actually true because, like, I look back 2 years ago and I was living in the one of the buildings on the Gold Coast. I had billionaires there's only 7 apartments.
Mhm.
Two of them were owned by billionaires. One of them was owned by a lady everyone knows, so I won't name drop her, but she's um, worth hundreds of millions, very famous Australian. Obviously, the billionaires are very well known in Australia. So that's 3 out of the 7 apartments in my building. I'm the poor guy, right? On level 3 that's now sold. And I had the brand new Porsche underneath, and I had, this story about Amazon guy and, being on stage with Tony Robbins. And that's sort of the story and the narrative that I sold for financial gain for years to build my profile. And that's what you do. That's how the game works. You have to get credibility. You then sell the credibility with a course and whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you tell this whole story. Now, when I put that property on the market and I had these buildings, right? These beautiful industrial buildings with fancy tenants, and I could walk through and say, look at this building here. It's got a Hillsong church in it. It was like a Hillsong, a smaller version of Hillsong. So, spectacular building. If you see a photo of it, you go, oh my God, look at this thing. It's massive. Just that one tenancy was over 1,000 square meter footprint, and there was three tenancies in that one building. And I had three of these massive buildings. So I could walk around with this big swinging dick and turn up in my brand new Porsche Targa and show you any one of my multi-million dollar buildings. And I just put them all on the market and I sold my Porsche and I had went back to no car, to no house. And it was this death of ego. I put my Rolex away and I ended up buying a
Yeah.
Casio WR24 for 59 bucks
Nice.
on the street in Cyprus. I just stopped caring about that stuff. I just answered that much deeper question about
What
what
makes you
does it all
happy?
really mean to me? It just doesn't
Yeah.
mean shit when you truly stop caring what other people think of you. And I went through a period, Adrian, where I know for a hard fact that I lived in a suburb called Main Beach, and Main Beach is like a very small, tight-knit, everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows who lives in my building. They know every single person. When one of those apartments sells, everybody knows how much they got for it and who sold and who's moving in, right? I know for a fact in Main Beach, people were like, Adam's lost his mind. He's
Mhm.
leaving Australia. He's selling his beachfront apartment. In fact, one of the people in that building, she's worth hundreds of millions, said to me, Adam, what are you doing, mate? Like, what are you doing? That never sell real estate. She's nearly 80, I think, and she's still buying real estate and hustling and doing deals and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And she's still one of the worst listeners I've ever met in my life, right? She doesn't really take an interest in at a deep level in people unless they have lots of money. Um, and I'm like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be at 80 and still trying to still name dropping and brokering deals and doing these things. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be that human. And so I just sort of I was like, fuck it. I'm killing all that. I'm going to take the cash and I'm going to set myself up in a game where I can wake up in the morning and just roll into wherever I want to be without having to lug this story with me and just actually be present where I am based on how I show up in that moment instead of like here in Bali, apart from Australians that will come up to me and go, oh my God, I watch your stuff. Apart from that,
Mhm.
nobody knows who I am here and nobody cares. And I love that, right? It's just such an easeful way to live without having to maintain this illusion. And I hardly post. In the last 3 months, I'll post on my Instagram stories, but I don't really make that much content now.
Mhm.
Um, just keeping my head down, getting really fit, enjoying the flow of Bali and
Yeah.
other places.
Yeah, you mentioned on your podcast, on the Unemployable podcast, when you're you were telling your story about all of this, and you mentioned that there was a moment where you looked at it like a balcony and you thought for the first time, I wonder what it'd be like to sort of jump off, or maybe I
Mhm.
should do it, I could do it. There was something along those lines that you said. And when we're talking about ego deaths and deaths of I guess personalities or identities that you've lived up to, which you now realize has been largely a lie. It's not authentically you. And like we've got a mutual friend in Kerwin Ray. Now, I don't know 100% of what the deal is with Kerwin, but the if the rumors are true, he committed suicide. I don't know if that's 100% fact, but that's the rumors that I heard. But for a guy like that to want to take his life and successfully do it is a tragedy. Like I've only just reached out to another mate of mine had a couple of deals go pear-shaped, and he posted about it, and he was authentic and vulnerable, and just said, look, life sometimes deals you sort of shitty deals and all the rest of it, and he had to go and borrow money to sort of get out of the situation that he was in. And so I gave him a call because I've just had I've had too many instances in the last couple of years where people have decided to call it quits after a setback or a shift in identity, and then they didn't know what to do with themselves once they made that decision. Am I making sense to you?
Mhm.
So, like, is there a moment like in between telling that story and when it happened and the version that you're portraying now that you've grown into? Um, was there ever a moment where you thought I've made the worst decision? I mean, a part of the ego death, was that in alignment with your separation and a few other things actually dying as well in terms of identities
Mm.
and timelines?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm glad you brought this up because it's not an easy thing to get to where I am now. So I'm about 2.5 years into it,
Mm,
of this. Well, yeah, I'm probably 2.5 years away from when I'm 52 and a bit now, and it was 50 almost on the day that I had that question of like, am I happy? So I'm two
mm,
and a half years past that day, and in the middle was some of the darkest days of my life, which I never thought I would experience, being Mr. Positivity, Mr. being on stage with Tony Robbins and Gary Vee, and you know, all that story, the makeup on my life.
mm,
Um, so in the middle there is, and unfortunately, I think for a lot of men around 50, they face some really difficult questions, and it can be a combination of things. Life hasn't turned out how they thought. Divorce rates are super high. Business failings are super common. And men go to war. Kids leave home. Marriages fail after that quite often because the parents don't have that connection in the kids anymore. Um, and I think by the time you're 50 as a man, if you're in business, you've been in it long enough and you start to understand what it is and you understand the cost of it and you understand how difficult it is, particularly for Australians, because it's a small country, it's a high tax country. It has this culture of like, you know, pulling down people who are trying to be successful. And here we lose a lot of men, right? So for me, my journey was my marriage failed. A year and a half ago, I think it is roughly. Sorry, yeah. My marriage failed a year and a half ago, and that whole situation was really sad because you know, I'd put a lot into that. I got married much later. We were only married for 2 years.
mhm,
Um, and stuff happens, of course, when people break up, and I couldn't put some of it together. You know, cost me money despite being only with her for a couple of years. And you see things that happen that you just didn't think would happen, and you just go, oh my God, like, and you lose faith in people, a little bit. So I
mm,
went through this very dark period a year ago where yeah, I was lost, but I knew signing up for this journey, if you're gonna just not put your head down and burrow on in what you know and continue down that path because you're too afraid to go the other path of like killing the ego and trying to pursue the bigger questions of life. Almost all of my friends said, Adam, you're going to come back to business. We know you're an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur to the day you die. If they were placing bets, I'm sure they would have placed bets that I would be back in business. And I would never say what I said to you at the start of this when I said I'm actually the inverse, where I actually don't want stuff in my calendar. I don't want anything that's going to involve meetings and regularity and focus on achieving a business goal. I recoil from it now. I just don't want to be near it.
mhm,
Um, so that transition is very lonely. And I found myself when I broke up, my wife and I separated in Florence, Italy. We were on this trip. It had been coming for a while before that, and I won't go into all the details, but it was kind of like we'd booked this trip to Europe. I'd booked it a year ahead. It was this phenomenal trip. and or we'd been through all this shit, and I said, let's try to go to Europe anyway and see how it goes. We went to Europe. It fell apart in Florence. She went home with her son, and I'm in Florence on my own. And if you can imagine being in Florence on your own, no friends, no wife who you'd been with for most of the last 7 years through the dating period, and then married for a couple of years or 6 years, 5 years, I don't know what it was, whatever it was, 5 years maybe, that we were together. She's gone, like dead out of your life, no phone calls, no text, nothing. Your stepson, I poured my heart into, set him up, um, and took on the role best I could of being a good stepdad because I never had kids. That
Mm.
disappeared because obviously he's his mother's son, which he should be loyal to her. So I lost him and I lost her, and I've got no friends, and I'm in Italy. And I didn't want to go back to Australia, and I didn't want to go back to Cyprus. I had a home in Cyprus at that time, which we'd set up together in Cyprus. So I find myself walking around the streets completely purposeless. Like, okay, yeah, you got money. So what? I can still only eat at one restaurant. It just was absolutely meaningless having the money. Like, you could put me on a private jet, put me in first class. It wasn't going to make me feel any better, right? Money does not solve those kinds of problems. I'd lost the center of my life was blown up and gone. And then I floated around Europe, and I rang a mate, and he told me he had cancer, and I jumped on a plane over to Thailand to go see him. And that's when I was standing. He gave me one of his apartments to stay in, and he said, "Stay in this place. I've got three of them on the beach. You can just stay in that one for as long as you want." And I'm just looking. I'm just like, why am I even here? Like, what's the point? Like, and that's when I had that really dark night of the soul. And I
Mm.
know Kerwin, I knew Kerwin. Kerwin used to work for me. He was at one of his first jobs was
Yes.
working for me as a sales guy. I knew Kerwin very well.
Mm.
And I watched him go from, learning sales and working in my business to going on to being Kerwin. And it was a great thing to watch, but he was a troubled person, he was a troubled soul. It was super sad what happened.
Mm.
And he thought a lot about things. He came from a troubled background, so yeah, and I lost friends of my own. So yeah, look, in short, it's not a direct journey to joy. And a few of my mates, and what got me through that was a few of my really close mates would check in on me regularly and would would say, "Hey, we love you, and you're going to be okay." And if I didn't have those mates, it might have been a different story, but I did, and I had those good mates. And then I found my way to Bali. I did a speaking gig in Nomad Capitalist in Kuala Lumpur. And I met a couple of people who lived in Bali. Said, "Why don't you come to Bali and just see what it's like?" And I've been to Bali many times, but only for the charity work I'd done for 10 years. And once I got to Bali, something in me shifted immediately. And then I just started to feel a lot better. And then the healing really began. And now I'm just, yeah, in a really different place.
Mm. No, you can tell. And I'm glad
Yeah.
you come out on the other side. Like I said, I mean,
Yeah.
you and I both know enough individuals to know that a lot of people can have sometimes to you and I, what would be even like insignificant events happen and they want to exit, so let alone a monumental thing like a divorce, separation, particularly when there's kids involved. You went through a loss of a
Absolutely.
stepson. I mean, I know too many men that have gone through the separation and their kids have been taken away and weaponized against them, and they feel like purpose, like what is the point of me even existing if I don't have anything to live for, or a direction in a sense of being a provider, or having a legacy to leave for my children, those sorts of things. So yeah, man, it's
I
it,
feel, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
that's all right. No, look, it is sombering, but also quite sobering in the sense of, I guess, when you look at places like Bali in Indonesia and certain parts of it that are maybe not ritzy or westernized. I mean, an example that I can give you that is similar to like not singing in a sauna or anything like that, but it's also being in a place where you don't have anything else to do other than to sit and contemplate and be alone with your thoughts, and then finding peace in that moment and having this, I guess, surreal, but also quite a visceral experience of being connected to nature, to other humans, and then you're like, I am as happy as a pig in shit, and I haven't won a business deal. I haven't made money. This hasn't cost me a fortune. I'm just in this particular moment, right? So, for me, like I remember taking my family away after selling my real estate business in 2015. And the boy's mum, her family's from Macedonia. So in that time, this is like 2017, something like that. Um, Going to Macedonia and going to the villages of like the Balkan villages, um, is like going back to 1970, right? So people still
Mhm.
live and work off the land. They still have that typical, um, I guess I can relate to it as a European vibe of I I I don't live to work, right? I work to live. I feel at my happiest when I've got Adam and all of his family and all of my family around the table, and we can't see any of the tablecloth because there's that much food that I've provided for everyone, and everyone's well nourished and fed, and we're drinking and we're happy and we're having rakia and we're just in this sort of moment of enjoying ourselves together. And that kind of unity and family values and all that sort of stuff, like that's what those particular countries offer. If you go to Albania, it's the same. If you go to Croatia, it's the same. Like, any of those sort of Balkan places. It's the south of Italy, where my family's from, my dad's family, is the same. They live, they catch fish. You can only do three or four things in the south of Italy. You either make coffee, make bread, you cook fish, right? Or you find fish, or that's it. Like if any other work is not available for you, you have to travel in order to have any other skills. But if you're there, that's all you do. You sit on the streets until 11, 12, 1, 2 a.m. and you talk to your neighbors. They just put their tables and chairs on the street because you got like the house is here and the road is there, right? It's just like you
I
don't have,
know, mate. I lived in Cyprus for a year and I saw it
you know all
every
about
day. You see all the old boys playing dice, and drinking wine and having cigarettes at, 10 in the morning. And this is the thing that I think men, I'm going to just talk to the men for a minute, but men are very easy to please. But unfortunately, and I don't want to shit on Australia, I'm just going to talk about the West, right? The America, England, the West, right?
it.
Canada. We've been poisoned by social media. The image of what being a man is and what women expect from men is so fucked up and so hard a game to win for men who just want to provide for their family and enjoy the company of other people and families. It's all screwed in the West, in my opinion. The whole value system and measurement of success is such a game that so few people win because the expectation and the goals are right up here, right? And women are measuring men by against this unbelievably high bullshit standard. And so the women are not getting what they want, and the men are not getting what they want.
Mhm.
And and then you look at other parts of the world where the values are all different, and the game is set up in such a way that you can still win because winning doesn't mean having a G-Wagon and having your kids in private schools and having them in 5 different sports, right?
Yeah,
And having them getting counseled for fucking this and for that. The kid needs this and the kid needs that. You know,
yeah.
all the shit that has been sold to the West, the Western man and the Western woman of what success is. And you better live up to that shit. It's fucking killing people, brother.
I
It's
agree.
killing people, silently killing people, either
Mm,
inside or they're jumping off the buildings in their 50s because they can't fucking get there. And you add to that divorce and you add to that the weaponization of the system against men. And there is a massive, massive problem with the legal system in the West. You look at this stupid shit in South Australia now where they're giving, you know, no stamp duty to victims of domestic violence. I don't know if you
Mm.
saw this just last week.
I
What
didn't see it.
the, what do you think is going to happen? I'll tell you right now what's going to happen. There's going to be a spike in domestic violence on paper at least, because you've just incentivized probably women to say, hey, I'm a victim of domestic violence. You're going to have false claims filed against men, and you're going to see a spike in men being domestically violenced against because they're going to figure out, well, fuck it, can you just come and punch me in the face because I'm going to get free stamp duty, right? It's like
It's
the government
ridiculous.
still haven't figured out how incentives work, right?
Yeah.
So the West is just screwed for if you're optimizing for what you described, which is authentic joy. You know, a
Yeah.
mate of mine's in Cyprus at the moment. He put a video on the other day. He's there in Cyprus with, there's a bunch of Aussies that I'm friends with in Cyprus, and they're on his back deck, and they're all Greeks and Wogs and Cypriots. And it's exactly what you described. The table is covered with food. There's kids screaming around everywhere. And these are young Australians, Theo and his wife, beautiful guy, beautiful family. And they just left Melbourne 3 years ago, 4 years ago, because of their kids' medical condition. And they got better service and better situation in Cyprus than Melbourne, if you can imagine that. That's why they left for medical reasons, which is crazy. And he's living in a little village outside of Limassol, and he's only in his mid-30s, this guy. And he's so much happier and not paying any tax and living a beautiful life with his family. And my mate was there having a barbecue because I introduced them, and they're all sitting there. As a guy from Sydney who's a mechanic. He's providing a great life for his family in the same little village. Aussies in their 30s living in Cypriot villages with kids running around their feet, not stressed out of their brain because they don't pay tax. They're living a life that's still free, and they can afford to live reasonably well. They've got a beautiful ocean for their kids to go in where the water's so crystal clear and there's no sharks. You can swim in it all the time. There's no tide's going to suck you out. So, and people in the West are still like, oh, no, we live in the lucky country. And, no, you don't, brother. You live in what's become a nightmare. And it's
Mm.
very, very sad. And it's not that Australia sucks. And this is why I'm so vocal about Bitcoin, is because a lot of this comes back to broken money. It comes back to the fact that money is being printed, inflation has become a real thing. People are using houses as places to invest rather than places to live in. And so the cost of living in Australia has gone through the roof to rent or to buy. Young people no longer have a stake in the country. And it's busted up what was once an amazing country, because when I grew up, it was like that. When I grew up, in Australia, my dad raised three boys on a teacher's salary while mum was home when we got home from school to make sure that we got home safe, and would say,
Yeah.
what do you boys want to have for food when you get in? And then we go out and play and clown around and play cricket.
Yeah.
And we owned a home. Try
Yeah.
owning a home in Australia today on a single parent teacher's salary. Good
Mm.
luck.
Yeah,
That's what it's
absolutely.
cost us because of our broken money and this insane spending by both sides of the uni party in Australia. It's
Mm.
just a mess, man. Like it's just broken.
It is. Let's talk to that if you don't mind. Like, everyone who knows you knows that, and you've obviously stated several times throughout this chat, is like you exited Australia, you sold everything, and you took off, and the various reasons for that overarching sentiment is it's just too expensive to have a great quality of life unless you are the old version of Adam who's working his freckle off and telling the stories and hustling deals. And that's what you're going to do, like that 80-year-old lady in the apartment above you on Main Beach, right? So it's like if that's what you're cut out to do for the rest of your life, then great, maybe you'll be successful. Other than that, most people are just living paycheck to paycheck and they're just wondering how they're going to afford the next bill. And you sort of dread, like, I hope the car doesn't fuck up or something go wrong because, like that's just going to be the
Yeah.
straw that breaks the camel's back, right? The last time I spoke to you was about a year ago and you'd just made the move to Cyprus, I think, or you were had put all of that in alignment. You was talking about Pauline Hanson, the political party. You said something like, "I'm politically disillusioned," but I noticed on your podcast, like you're obviously trying to weed out, who's going to actually make a difference in Australia to sort of salvage what's left. But having listened to you enough, and I can see the mindset shift over the last couple of years. Like there's a lot going on besides Australian politicians on both sides, just like having almost no fucking clue as to how to run a country. I mean, it's seemingly deliberately being destroyed. And I think you and I would both agree that it is. I mean, yeah, politicians are one rung above us. Like there's someone else pulling the strings and making life very difficult. And it seems to be Australia, the UK, Canada, like all of the Commonwealth, sort of countries. So I don't know. Can you
Yeah.
speak to that? Like, give me your,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I also want to talk to solutions because I have entertained the idea of leaving, but I always come back to I I need to position myself in order to do that. So I'm working
Mm.
on several things at the moment to position myself that if the shit was to hit the fan, then I would be leveraged in a sense where I could make decisions. And that's what I hear about your story is you built the ability to have options. And a lot of people feel like they don't have any options at all. So
Mm.
I've got me and my three boys here. Their mum is here and their immediate family. My partner and her four kids are here. Like we got the fucking Brady bunch to look after, right? So as romantic as it sounds to sort of like, go and live in Croatia or something like that, it seems like right now for me, it's not the right move to make. The right move is to position myself. So anyway, I'm just giving you my perspective, but then I've also given you an overarching sort of view of how Australia is, and you've exited it for many reasons. But for those who want to stay, and I've heard you say this heaps, you want to stay and fight, but what are you fucking doing to fight? It's just like, well,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
talk let's talk to solutions because I can be a voice. I can steer people in the direction of, quietly I want a revolution, right? I want people to revolt in the sense of like pushback. I want them to say no, like they should have said no to the jab. They should have said no to closing down businesses and all those sorts of things. Like I want people to push back, not violently physically, but violently in terms of their intent to set the record straight and pull Australia back into where it was in 19 fucking 85. I don't know. Like, you follow me?
Peak Australia. Yeah.
Peak Australia, right? Where you buy a block of land
Yeah.
for $4,000 and you build a
Correct.
house for
Yeah.
12, and
Yeah.
16 grand got you out of the shit and you fucking, like you said, raised three children on a teacher's salary. Bro, we've
Yeah.
got a
Yeah. Yeah.
fucking rich, rich country, and
Yeah.
these fucks are just driving it into the ground.
My take on this is a little, sad, but I'll share it.
So,
I used to believe in democracy. I don't believe in democracy anymore, Adrian, because
mhm.
I just believe that democracy is uh, the illusion of choice, right? It gives us punters the illusion that who we vote for matters. And a friend recently said to me, look, the powers that be, if they thought elections would change anything, they'd make them illegal, right? Um, the people who run the country are not the politicians, in my opinion. Like, I'm so excited that Pauline Hanson is getting traction just purely because for the entertainment value. Do I
Yeah.
really think that Pauline Hanson's going to be able to change Australia and turn it all around? No, now it's not because I don't like Pauline. I've interviewed Pauline, and of all the politicians I've interviewed, she's one of my favorite. I think she's real. She turned up at my podcast studio driving a 25-year-old Pajero with a One Nation sticker on the four-wheel drive wheel at the back and no security. Like
Yeah.
she's real as shit. And then a media advisor came separately, and she's like, "How you going, Adam?" And she's humble and she's she's nice, in real life, right? Like I like Pauline, and I think she's more Australian and got more backbone than most of these assholes that are in power, who are just like elbows, just a complete fucking embarrassment.
Mm.
Um, and anyway, so I believe that there is actually, sadly, very evil, corrupt, power hungry, money hungry pieces of shit that control things behind the scenes. And I've had this pretty much confirmed to me by sitting members of parliament who I won't release their names, but privately, who I've met or had on my pod or are in my circles through people. Some of them leaving Australia,
Mm.
people who've served at the highest level in parliament after decades, seated members that have said to me behind the scenes, it's all fucked. It's corrupt. We thought we could make a change. We can't. There's no change to be had because the real people who run Australia, it's about money. It has been co-opted. Like, where the fuck is the investigation into the billions of dollars that Victorian taxpayers gave away to these unions?
Yeah.
Where is that discussion? If I lost 10, what was it, $12 billion unaccounted for?
Mhm.
You'd think there'd be a little bit of a look into that. If somebody took $1 billion off me, I'd certainly want to have a bit of a look into it, right? But no, it's just like, no, it's all business as usual. And they'll probably build a bronze statue to Jacinta Allen, right? There's some really fucked up, dark shit happening. And when people think that they are defending Australia, and what is Australia today?
Mm.
Who is Australia today? How is the population of Australia made up today? How many millions of people weren't even in this country in Australia 5 years ago? My
Sure.
parents got on boats from England in pursuit of a better life to Australia. They were 10-pound poms. I wonder if at that time they were seen as deserters, as people who should have stayed and fought, instead of coming and founding what became one of the greatest nations on earth, which was Australia.
Mhm.
And, I don't know the language or anything, but my now I believe and it might be a little bit of a dystopian view, but I think you either go into politics, and I thought about this, right? Do I go and join a political party and then dedicate the next 20 years of my life trying to create change? And I'd had an opportunity to speak to people who have actually done that, who've actually tried, and they came back from that war front and said, brother, do not go there. Just do not go there. So when you see those good souls that have gone and served the nation for 20 years at the federal level coming back, shaking their head, going, brother, it's like it's done, it's cooked. And the people at the bottom of the Australian, totem pole, right up to the people who still have morals at the political level, are both saying it's cooked. And
Mm.
so, what is the right thing to do for you and your family? What is the courageous thing to do for you and your family? What version of you shows up every day when you come home from battle in Australia, a country that will now take half of everything you make through these capital gains taxes, a country that thinks nothing of bringing in millions of immigrants from India and other parts of the world when its own citizens can't get affordable housing? They don't give a fuck about people who are in Australia or their kids or their future. They care about power. They care about keeping power at all costs. That's it. So, what is that country? What is that Australia? Which Australia are you defending? The 1985 Australia or the Australia that's actually the Australia today, where people are losing jobs over not acknowledging that there's only two genders? All this type of bullshit that has crept into Australian power now. Like I saw that stupid law case in Australia where didn't a transgender man just sued for because
Yeah.
somebody didn't acknowledge that he
People on
wasn't a
Google.
woman,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
whatever it was.
He got kicked off a all woman app where women are
Yes,
designed.
that's right.
Yeah, it's designed to that a community of women so they can support one another. And he got booted out and won the court case, and now she's got, I don't know, $500,000 in damages or some shit.
So for me, I basically went, look, I'm 52 years old. I might live to 100 and I've probably got 40 years there of good life and maybe 10 years of shitting my pants and having somebody have to look after me at the end or whatever it is. You are here for but a moment, mate.
Yeah.
So like like choose your battles. Like choose
Yeah.
your battles. And I choose peace, and I know I'm lucky to be where I am in having a home in Indonesia, and I'm deeply respectful of the people here. Um, and yeah, and I spend time in other parts of the world as well, and I travel, but the world is set up in a certain way, and there are ways to play the game that lead to joy and lead to not having to have $200 an hour meetings with your accountant to figure out how to avoid paying people who are trying to take half of what you make
Mm.
and none of your losses, right? Like,
Yeah.
fuck that. I'm not playing that game. You can fuck off. You know,
Mhm.
that's where I'm at 52 years old. I'm just not going to play that game. And when young Australians now, or I get parents ask me, what should I tell my kids? I say, get them out of Australia and get them into a low tax jurisdiction with a high density of young people that are hungry and driven and lock in for 5 years and work and give yourself a fair chance of getting ahead. And if you want to come back to Australia in 5 years, once you've got your business down, your business going, and you've got a place that wants you there, and then have the choice to go back. But they've got very little chance in Australia now. Very little chance. And if they do get lucky enough to break through, the government's going to take half of it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That
like
is
young
that is
people are not
quite
going to
somewhat.
stop building businesses. They're just going to stop building them in Australia.
Yeah. Well, look, I
Sad.
think at every turn where you think perhaps uh, something's going to shift in a positive direction to sort of give some sort of reprieve, it seems like there's another policy and some other nail in the coffin. Like in terms of the real estate market, I've got a couple of mates of mine that virtually just saying to me because they're in the building game that if you could do any 10 things, it's like doing all 10 of them at once to kill the real estate market in Australia with this last budget, the new laws that are coming into real estate for landlords and all those sorts of stuff. So it does become seemingly insurmountable. I guess, from a patriotic perspective, I hear everything that you say. Like, it's funny how I was listening to some of the commentary that you were making, and I thought, you know what, it'd be great to have Adam back on the podcast and talk about business and all of these things. And then I interviewed Jack Cruz, and then he talked about you on my podcast, saying, I just got shown a podcast about this guy, Adam. And I know why he's like feeling so good. It's because he's, moving more towards more like, what do you say, like a polarized, area of the world, and it's going to be making you feel good. I know why. I have a feeling, or how I know why your mum passed away, or how she passed away, and then you commented on that same podcast, which was like,
A
to
shitload
me,
of people sent it to me. A heap of people watched that podcast of you with him, and then they
right,
were DMing me saying, "Have you seen this guy's talking about you on this
talking
podcast?
about
You should
you.
go watch it."
Yeah,
But mate, it's an interesting time, and I just believe, unfortunately now, that Western governments have been co-opted, and I hate it. But after 30 years of being in business, I don't give a fuck about your positivity. I don't care about your goals. I'm a pragmatist. At the
sure.
end of the day, show me the numbers. You can tell me all the stories you want in the world, but the numbers are going to tell a louder story. And the
Yeah.
same thing now, unfortunately, with business. And I've seen it, man. I'm not the only one. I've had in the last 3 months, like I do one-on-ones occasionally, and I charge stupid money. And I say, look, I'll only talk to people if they want to talk about leaving Australia, or I'm happy to share my experience, and I'm happy to
Mhm.
talk about just life changes. Yesterday, I had a woman fly from Australia to meet me. She's done very well, like millions and millions of dollars of assets, and she's gotten to exactly the same place I was 3 years ago. And we were sitting here in a cafe in Bali, and she just started crying, talking about how I don't see a future. I'm going through this massive change. I'm shedding this identity. She's going through it. Then I met with these politicians, sitting member for decades on one of the major parties, and they're
Mhm.
leaving. Then I had a guy 2 weeks ago in Bali, one-on-one meeting. He's got a $180 million commercial portfolio in Australia, liquidating all of it. He's out. He's going, I'm fucking gone. I'm over this shithole. I'm out. Before that, I had a guy with $200 million worth of developments in Australia. He's leaving. All these guys are just going, it's fucked. right? And that you look in the comments under my videos and you get these, people who are just angry because they perceive that they don't have the choices that I have. And so they just get pissed off at me because they know I'm right. So they just have a
Yeah.
go at me. But the silent majority that don't post anything and contact me through the back channels, I get emails from people going, Adam, this is me, or they make an appointment with me. And they're like, brother, you are 100% exactly right, but they're not going to go public with it. They're not going to go, I just get slaughtered because I open my mouth about it. Because I want people to know that they're not alone. I want men out there right now that are struggling to hear the message that you are important, you are loved, you're not going crazy. Um, you know, you, there is light on the other side of this, but there's hard decisions to be made. And there are
Yeah.
hard times when you make those decisions. But if you stick all the way through to it, there is a beautiful life and there is an amazing world beyond Australia that is incredible. Moments like my friend Jason here said to me, Adam, I've lived more in the last 4 months than I have in 55 years prior to coming over. And he now lives with me. He's my best friend. And so we live together in the same house as just two guys in their 50s living together, going to the gym, living cheap, happy as pigs in shit because we just decided to let it all go and just go, we are going to pursue a life of happiness based on what we want as men, which is simplicity, laughter, fitness, maybe
Yeah.
flirt with a few chicks here and there if they cross it. But the priority of that is not as high as it once was. You got to be
Yeah.
pretty special to fucking interfere with the peace we now feel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, like there's a
There's a
whole
book that I
world that
read
exists
about
outside of
20.
that.
You're exactly right. There's a book that I read about 25 years ago. I can't, I might be able to dig up the name. It's called Laughter, Sex, Vegetables, and Fish.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the author for the life of me, but basically he was talking to Asian people in the rice fields, and that was kind of like the secret source to their happiness. They all lived together. There was generations that lived in the same household, and he said, I boiled it down to these things: laughter, sex, vegetables, and fish. That's pretty much what they did
That's
to
it.
keep happy. So look, and to attest to what you're saying too, when I took my family overseas, um, we lived in a family home in Macedonia, so we took about 3 or 4 months off, and I did work remotely from there. I found a little internet cafe in one of the villages, and I could talk to clients back in Australia. And I was only doing every other week. So one week I would travel, the next week I would come home to Macedonia, and then I would have all my meetings in the morning because everyone was in Australia. So I worked from 5 a.m. to like 11 or 12, and then I had my whole day together. But the point I wanted to make is that I wasn't making shit tons of money. I think if I was to estimate a monthly earning at that point, I might have been pulling in 8 grand a month.
Mhm.
Like it's not a super amount of money by any stretch. Sometimes I lose a couple of clients that go down to 6 and then it go back up to 7 or 8 or again, like all that kind of stuff. But I did that for about 4 months. And in those parts of the world, if you're clever about where you position yourself, you actually don't need a lot of money. I'm probably
No,
selling
you don't.
myself back on the idea of exiting and having the opportunity to do that. But I mean, I I think if people wanted to entertain this idea, they should probably entertain it for about a month or two in Bali, or somewhere that's like easy enough to get a flight there, and just see if they can do it, and then come back and reposition and kind of do it again.
I would just obsess over learning to make money online some way and then do a trip for a month and see what it's like to live somewhere else for a month and before you go all in and just see what it's like. But there are other worlds outside of Australia that where it's just so much less stressful and so much more fulfilling and meaningful where the sense of community is still alive. I was just looking at my phone because I was trying to find something which was somebody asked me this couple that's leaving Australia, like, you've got a place, I've got a place in Panama, which I keep as well. You go, how expensive is it in Panama? I said, let me show you something. And I pulled up my last two electricity bills in my apartment. They were $2.50 US each a month. I was hardly there, admittedly, but I still got an air
Yeah,
conditioner running
sure.
and different things. $2.50. I was trying to pull it up so I could actually show it to you so you know it's
Yeah,
not bullshit.
that's wild.
But it's just wild. Like
Yeah.
to think that that's even possible. I just recharged my phone here in Bali. I've got a when you live here, you register your phone with the government. When you come in, was one time you pay a fee, and then you can get locals rates.
Mhm.
Unlimited for the month was like $4.50. Like you're
No
talking
way.
like a factor of like 10x, 20x, right? Is it? What do you
Yeah.
probably pay $60, $70 a month for a Telstra
Oh,
unlimited plan, right? You're
100,
talking 15 times the price,
Yeah.
not 20% more.
Yes.
Food is like half, like,
Yeah.
and when you take your tax down to zero, all of a sudden, it's not about your top line anymore. It's about what you got left.
Yeah, further.
Australians have just been stolen from so consistently over the years. Like one of the things I said it maybe last time, but when I was exiting in the Gold Coast, they brought in that view tax. So if your apartment's above level 4, they added 50% to your rates notice as a
Wow.
view tax. So, and to show the lunacy of this, right? My apartment was on level 3, $7 million. I sold it. It settled actually 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
Level 3, point blank on the ocean, the whole floor. I get no view tax. The guy's a kilometer inland looking at the mountains, nowhere near the ocean, on level 6 at Southport, which is a shitty
Wow.
area compared to Main Beach. They're on level 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
They get the view tax.
No way.
I'm living in the building with the billionaires, but I'm on level 3, so I'm okay. This is how fucking dumb governments are, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, well, I just guess I'll take it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Nothing. Mate, change ain't going to happen unless they're actually, historically, sadly, the only time change ever happens is through violence. That's it. And that's the truth. If you look at it historically, it's sad and I'm not advocating for it. I am pro peace, but that's the facts.
Look, I don't know how to explain this. It's like I disagree with I want to disagree with what you're saying. I hate the fact that you are right in a lot of the things that you're saying because they're just the facts of where we are at this present moment in Australia. And if you want to live to get ahead, it's almost like you've got to be dodgy. Like you've got to evade tax and you've got to do certain things that just I don't know, like or you've got to borrow heaps of money and just live on credit or an overdraft or something like that. I don't know. Like it is just a very highly leveraged, highly stressful sort of time. But I do hope for a protest in a sense of non-violence. I still, like I said to Jack Cruz, like I want to stay and fight, but I don't want to. I don't think rioting or yeah, I don't even think protests work. I'm not banking on any political party to make a change. I think it's a bunch of absolute BS. There is no chance that Pauline Hanson is going to make a difference to Australia. It's like and I've interviewed Malcolm a bunch and all the rest of it. Like, I like them. They say everything great.
Great intentions. Great
Great
intentions.
intentions, but I know, just like you look at RFK and all these guys that are trying to make headways in the US, these guys just get fucking, they get their number called. At the end of the day, there are supremely powerful people that are willing to do quite heinous things in order to keep their agenda alive. So I do think it's going to take a mass awakening. I'm just not sure if a mass exodus is going to make a difference. Like, Adam, my kids are 8, 19, 16, and 14. You know what I mean? My partner's kids
Pe-
are 16, 14, 10, 12, and 10.
People say to me, Adam, you live in a third world country. I said, don't worry, mate. The third world's coming to you in Australia. You don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's
Well, if
it.
it's so fucking great, why are they coming to us?
True.
Right? If where they're coming from is so great, like why isn't India the place that everybody's going to if it's so fucking great?
Yeah, I
It's
get it.
not. right? Like it's not the greatest place in the world in India. And so they come to Australia and they want us to just change and just, when I say I don't mean the Indians, I mean the politicians.
Sure.
Multiculturalism. I agree with Pauline. Uniculturalism. Defend Australian values. Defend what 1985 peak Australia. I think many Australians of our age would say that was peak Australia when
Good.
Hawkey was there and we were winning the America's Cup and we had Australian flags and Australia Day was fucking Australia Day, not this
Yeah.
whole concoction of bullshit agendas. But we're being told to just fucking no, we have to accommodate everybody coming in. All these places, if they're so great where they're coming from, why are they coming? Right? Like keep Australia great, right? And it's a great political slogan, but there's a lot of money, unfortunately, in all the things that are required for the agenda. And I think each person's just got to look at it and go, it's very sad. And it is really sad. Like people think I hate Australia. No, I hate the powers that have corrupted and ruined the great country of Australia. And I
Yeah.
just don't know that it'll ever come back because every time you see a political person go in, they never change anything, mate. Like they don't change shit. People get excited
I
for a
agree.
minute and then you just get more fucked and more fucked and more fucked. Um,
I agree, but I also don't think that the change will come about politically. I think the change will come
mm,
about when everyone says go fuck yourself. And I honestly hope that everyone will get to a point where they like I don't believe in not paying any tax. I think that if your tax is being used to the degree that it's making your roadways, waterways, like if your standard of living is being increased and improved as a result of you paying tax, like I'm all for paying tax. But I think a lot of Australians would have a lot more power if they just decided to withhold all of their tax, just stop doing their BAS, just stop making repayments. Like I just think they can't throw us all in jail. They'll make someone an example of, but they can't do it to
yeah.
everyone, just like in COVID. But and I could be just talking out of my ass. I don't know, but I'm quietly hoping for I'm not even quietly hoping. I'm hoping for a revolution of that magnitude where people just go, I'm not doing anything that you tell me to do because it's ruining my life, my family, my livelihood. Like I'm stressed out of my mind. My mates are killing themselves left, right, and center. I'm not standing for it anymore.
Historically, mate, it's been things like wars and pandemics that have substantively changed people. Like as much as we hated COVID, some good shit came out of COVID. It woke
Agree.
a lot of people up, right? Like, there was some good things that came out of COVID. It was the one of the most evil things that ever happened. But if we also ask a question about that, but I think Australia also has to ask at what price has all of this comfort come? Like
Yeah.
for me, when I come home to Australia, whenever I fly in and especially if it's an overnight flight, the light comes through the plane window and I know it's Australian light. There's this very special light in Australia. It's hard to explain, but some people who are listening to this might understand what I mean. And then there's this crispness and there's a cleanness to the air. It's beautiful. But then you get it out and you realize that it's so clean and so comfortable that I don't feel alive. It feels like you're walking around in cotton wool. Like there's no life left in the country for me. Like I love a bit of chaos. A few nights ago, I was on the back of a Gojek in Thailand at midnight with no helmet on, and I felt super alive. Now, sure, I might have a bike crash, and I know there's people going, "Oh, you fucking idiot!" Like, Australians have become so like opinionated and protected and soft that they're no longer a living. They're no longer alive. There's no risk. Like I love going out in the mayhem of traffic in Bali, and you've got to be on your wits on your motorbike. I wear my helmet and all this, but we've
Yeah.
become like just this soft, cuddled, gone are the days where you could ride around the back of a ute in a farm as kids, and just do shit that they'd say, God, that's irresponsible. Bring back some more irresponsibility. Bring back some more fucking less rules. Let fucking people do shit again. Now
Yeah.
you can't do shit in Australia. You can't put your kids in the back of the ute. You can't do anything anymore. They fucking take it away, take it away, take it away until you just fucking can't do anything, say anything. There's no risk. Life
Yes.
is risk. And I don't know, mate. Like I fucking love the mayhem of Southeast Asia. I feel alive. If I
Yeah.
die 5 years earlier, I die 5 years earlier. But at least I fucking lived.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
being told to fucking, getting fined for not having my seatbelt and getting fined for this and blah, blah, blah. And I know there's gonna be people who go, oh, this listen to this fucking idiot. They're gonna clip it. Oh, getting it. It's all fines, mate. All that shit is another way. Fines is
That's
tax.
right.
It's just another way
Yeah,
to take more
that's
money
right.
from you.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Fucking hell.
agree. Look, and that's why they call us a nanny nation or a nanny state. I mean, like it's like everything's designed to abdicate your power to someone else. It's COVID did awaken a lot of people, but it also, with this whole sort of COVID thing, the gender thing, like the racism thing, like you compound all of that together. Now, just even speaking out against Australia or Australia Day or First Nations people or anything like that, it brought about, like, you have to self-censor. It's almost like you don't feel like you can just roll something off the tongue and say what you feel because you're worried about the clicks and the clips and everything else that's going to come as
Oh, fuck
a
'em.
result of doing it,
As a
right?
consequence.
And that's why get trolled so much, is because you kind of like, well, I'm just going to call it how it is. I'm just going to say my piece, and I'm going to just voice my opinion how I see it. And then people go, you're for this. And that's, I know exactly where
The
we're at.
Karens, the Karens pipe up. I know you're a fish, but I mean, I was in Thailand the other day and I'm in Koh Phangan. I'm driving along and I see this mum on a motorbike and there's this handmade like crate, like metal cage attached to the side with three kids and a dog in it going to school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and everybody's polite and making sure they're out of the way and it's normal. Or they're
Yes.
stacked with the mum and the dog and two kids all on the one motorbike,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, that's humanity outside of Trumanville in
Yeah,
Australia.
that's
Like
exactly right.
fucking Australia, you can't do shit. Whereas
Yeah.
these people are like alive and living and engaged. And it's, I don't know, mate. Like it's,
Yeah.
once you get out of the system, you really
Europe,
realized how you've been turned into a fucking robot in Australia.
yeah, absolutely. And you've learned to just tolerate all of the tightening of the cage, like it's just getting a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. And then all of a
They
sudden you
treat you
wake
like a fucking child. Everywhere you go, you're a
Yeah,
child
that's
in
right.
Australia. Somebody lights up a cigarette. Oh my fucking god, get that shit away. Like, just grow the
Yeah.
fuck up. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, get your
I
aura
do. I
in,
do.
shove it up your ass, and live a little bit.
You're bringing back heaps of memories of Europe, because it's just like I used to say, the road rules are just a suggestion as to what you should be traveling at, like in terms of speed signs. It's almost like a recommendation, but you don't have to follow it. Like I used to get high beams from people behind me, and I was like, why is this guy high beaming me? And then I move across, and he just zooms past at like 220
Yeah,
on the motorway. So yeah. Anyway, mate.
yeah, yeah.
You're an absolute legend. I appreciate your time, and I value your opinion. Um, it's a good moment for me, because I know, like, we sort of connected last year and then this year again, in terms of you being mentioned on Jack Cruz's podcast. But I've been watching you for, I don't know, maybe the better part of 7 or 8 years or something like that. I've seen you on stages. I've been in the auditoriums where, you're up there doing your thing. You're with Kerwin, with Carrie V, with, all those guys. So um, it's just great to talk to you. So I appreciate your time. And
Cool,
I'm
man.
sure if people want to find out more about you, I'll link up your Unemployable podcast, and anything else you want me to mention, just send it my way and I'll be able to promote it for you. Okay.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Thanks for being having me back on again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime. All right, mate. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.